everyone. Thank you for joining us in this talk about how much color does your gray matter have. Maybe first an introduction to Mutant. My name is Intern and I'm client director at Mutant. Mutant is a creative agency based in Antwerp. We actually position ourselves between design studio and full service agency. So on the one hand, we put visual communication, craft at the forefront of our work. And then at the other side, we have the full service part where we create campaigns for our clients. So we're actually a design studio / full service agency, which now seems, voilà. And we're actually proud to say that some people say like you're like a design agency but with strategy behind it, because it's important to us that that we put strategic thinking at the forefront, but it's also executed very good and that the craft is up to scale.
Okay, hallo, bonjour. Ja. I'm Hannah, introducing myself. I'm Hannah. I'm a digital producer at nocomputer. And at nocomputer, we are actually a creative tech company who functions as a creative technical partner for creatives and creative agencies. Which means we actually are a collective of creative developers who are always on the hunt for cool projects to work on. And to give you a glimpse of what we've already been doing is the past years, is we've already been landing planes from a suburban home in London through full fiber. We've also been able to make cars talk and speak with the help of artificial intelligence for Volvo. And we recently, this year I think, made Coca-Cola cans dance and sing with the help of augmented reality. So I think it's safe to say that we're always pushing or searching the limits of technology. Thank you. I'm going to give the word back to Inni.
Yes, so we figured, let's start with the who and why. I think it's important to understand the brand we did this case for and why we did it, and the positioning of the brand. So the brand is actually Knack for the Dutch-speaking community, Le Vif for the French-speaking community, if you know it. Is a weekly news magazine with an aging male audience, and it's highly associated with print. And we all know in this digital day and age that news is consumed through various outlets, online, offline, locally, internationally, and it's hard for a news brand to kind of stand out between the big competitors, like even the New York Times and the Guardian are also competitors now for local news brands, because the younger people get their news from various outlets. So they challenged us to reposition themselves as a news brand and make them relevant in this day and age. So we looked for an international truth. And we found that our international truth is actually not truth, but doubt. While other competitor news brands, they claim to be the bearers of truth and the fake filter news. They filter the fake news. They kind of untangle the complicated matters so they can tell you what to think. We find it much more fitting to embrace doubt, because when you dare to doubt, you embrace nuances, you're open to different perspectives, different angles, and in these times it's much more interesting to us to embrace doubt. It's also embracing the identity of Knack as a weekly news magazine, so they have the time to kind of analyze, kind of look at it at different angles, and the daily reporting news brands, they have to jump the gun and they have to report really fast, while Knack has the time to kind of look at it from a distance and kind of bring the perspectives to readers and let them figure out for themselves what to think about that. So while other news outlets claim to hold the truth or be filters of fake news, we urge people to dare to doubt. And because yeah, it sounds illogical at first, but it's actually it works, and it's I think the sales went up, if it, commercially speaking. But then we also did some campaigns to kind of reinforce the dare to doubt, that it's not a weakness. Doubt is not a weakness. It's actually a strength. If you dare to doubt, even world leaders like Barack Obama changed their opinion based on new information, or time being that there's a new perspective that came to light. So we think that doubt is actually a strength and not a weakness. That's well. And we launched it in 2021, the baseline, and we actually believe that we have to practice what you preach. So if we have this call to action to dare to doubt, we also have to give the tools to our readers, to the public, to be able to dare to doubt, to be open, to understand their thinking, and to reevaluate and all that stuff. So we really wanted to create a brand platform that gives people the tool to visualize how they think, and maybe yeah, dare to doubt. So it's the first question we had was, how do we do this? Because how do we test people's thinking? How do you do that? We had a lot of talks with psychologists at the University of Brussels, like Gina Rossi, who is specialized in behavioral psychology. She also did a lot of personality measurement tests and tools. There are also two scientific tests, like the flexibility index test and the revised NEO personality inventory we used. So we wanted to make sure that we had a scientific backbone to our tool, to our platform, that it's not just a gimmick or something nice to visualize. It has to be correct, and we have to give our readers the means to dare to doubt with scientific backbone. So we thought it was very necessary that we did these extensive talks, this extensive research. So we had our backbone, so we knew how we could analyze people's thinking, and we determined 4 parameters in this platform. So we had empathy. So are you capable of understanding where other people come from, even if you disagree? You have open-mindedness. Are you open to new impressions, new ideas? Flexibility. Can you adjust your opinion if you have new information coming towards you, if time passes? And how curious are you to new perspectives and way of thinking? So those were the 4 parameters that we discovered in our extensive data research and talks with the psychologists and the behavioral psychologists. And these parameters were scientifically correct, but then the next question was, how do we visualize this? How do we visualize thinking? It's I don't know if you already thought about it, but you can't put it in words. You can't even. So we thought, okay, let's start from the beginning. So we had the backbone of the scientific research, and now we start with a blank canvas, because an opinion starts from scratch. It has to be formed through new information, and then you can get all sorts of shapes, all sorts of textures and colors. So these were kind of our mood boards for the platform. So we knew, okay, we had to have like an eclectic result of our thinking. And now we have visual parameters, and we had the scientific parameters. So we kind of had to connect the two. So it's logical that if you do the experience and you answer questions, that it's logical that if my answer goes slightly more towards the one side or the other side, that the experience kind of follows you through it, and that it's a logical visual impact on your shape while you're doing the experience. So, for example, we had solid versus fluid, so a fixed opinion turns solid, and someone who's more open to doubt has a fluid opinion, so we had those two visual parameters. Then we also had colors. We could link political colors. In your opinion, convinced of one is a full color, open to different is more gradient or speckled. We also had cold and warm colors, light and dark, so there's a multitude of options. Then speed, your thinking is also in motion. A stable opinion moves slow, smooth. A more stimulated opinion makes short and abrupt movements, like the one on this side. And then we also looked at size, so the more views you understand, the bigger your opinion, the bigger your shape would be. The less open you are to different ways of thinking, your shape becomes smaller. So then lastly, the shape can be rounded, balanced is more round, or spiky on the other side. So these are a few results that we had. So you see that no thinking is actually the same. You'll get different results because your opinion slightly differs or changes. If I would do the test now and I would do the test a year later, it might be a completely different shape because I dare to doubt and I change my way of thinking. There are almost an infinite possibilities, and it was important that every test had to be unique and that everyone has this experience of this is how my thinking is visualized, and every parameter has a visual impact that's logical and that it transcends the abstraction of this visual thinking. Voilà. Then the next step was what's in a name. I think it was very important to us that the name of the platform is more than just a very descriptive thing, because our work title was Opinion Former, which is basically says what it is, but it's not really triggering, doesn't say that much. So we settled upon something that's simple, university comprehensible, so people know what the goal is, and thus we started thinking, okay, there's a lot of articles about black and white thinking, and we live in this world where it's either this side or that side, in absolute certainties, but actually it's it's not binary thinking. It doesn't work in our world. You can't think in black and white. So, and thus, Think in Color was born. For us, it was an activating name where we call upon people to not think black and white, but in color. It's clearly understandable because everybody knows the term of black and white thinking. So you could call upon to think in color. And it's also an ownable name. It's a new phrase that we could launch to rebel against black and white thinking and urge people to think in color. And it's also visually triggering. And Hannah will explain some more tech stuff.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Firstly, I'm going to show you briefly how the interface looks like, because if you haven't taken the test yet, or if you haven't seen it yet, it's a good introduction to how it works. So you have a slider. You get first of all, you get a question or a statement, and you have a slider that goes from strongly disagree to strongly agree, and any value in between. And you can slide the slider to whichever feels best for you. And as Inia already introduced, we worked around 4 parameters, being empathy, open-mindedness, flexibility, and curiosity. And it's important to know that in the background, so you saw the slider on the front end, in the user interface, strongly disagree, strongly agree, I'm sorry. And in the background, it's mapped onto a value of -1 until 1. So strongly disagree being -1, strongly agree being 1. And we mapped out that for all the parameters except for curiosity, just because we think there is no such thing as being negative curious, or you're curious or you're not, but you can be not curious. In opposite to open-mindedness, either you're very close-minded, you're not open to new things, new experiences, or you're everything in between, and you're very open-minded, open to new things, exploring new things. So that's the mapping that goes on in the background. And we take a weighted average out of it, out of all the values that you've inputted, and we create a new bulb for you. But one of the things we stumbled on very early on in the process or project is, you can see it on the left down side of the screen. It's one of the first versions we made. We made a lot of versions because there goes a lot of feedback rounds into it. And on the left side, you see one of the first versions. And so one of the things we stumbled on is the first question you answer, you see an immediate impact, a visual impact on the bulb. But as you go further and further into the experience and you are, for example, at the last question, it doesn't have as much visual impact anymore because we already take into account the 14 previous questions and we have a weighted average out of it. So you couldn't see as much progress anymore in the bulb visually. Which was a really a strong need that we like the project. How do you say it? Drives around the visual thing in the front end. So we decided to have each question, while you answer it, have more impact visually on the bulb. And after you've answered all 15 questions, then we take you have like a calculating step, and then we take all the values into account and create your final result. And we have multiple things we can do to give a visual impact on the bulb, and I'm going to give you some time to look at the slides, because this is like a side version where you can really see the impact on each parameter. If you slide it to 0 or to 100 and what the impact is. So we can also already what Ini mentioned, so we can change the form of it. There's a whole bunch of mathematical formulas in the back side of it to be able to form it in different ways. We can play with color, brightness, and different colors, and we can also play with the texture. So now for empathy, for example, we make it like a really cloudy form, or if you go to the opposite, it's like some, yes, how do you say it? So spikes, yes. And then for open-mindedness, it goes to a really shiny form, or like a really black and white form. And then we have some concrete textures into it, or like a really movie bulb. So those are the things we experimented with. And if there are some tech lovers here who want to know more about the stack we used, so the front end is fully JavaScript. It's all vanilla JS. The animation part, like the bulb part, is fully WebGL. We like to use 3JS for it, and it's with custom materials. Backend-wise and hosting and stuff, we like to use AWS. And maybe also nice to know is that we really use small textures, which let us have this experience also on low-end devices. So it was everyone could use it, but it's also made to run on really big screens with really great level of detail and really have that quality of it. And so.
Yeah, so in conclusion, your gray matter might actually be very colorful. Your brain works in an eclectic way. Just a small result page that kind of indicates that the case was very successful, and it's also still a permanent feature in Knack. At the moment, interviewees or columnists, they also do the experience, and then next to their name or next to their article or interview, their shape or form will be indicated next to their article. In the first 3 days, we had 10,000 visitors, and they expected we were 360% above target for participants, so that's really good. We also managed to get a new audience, because 88% more new registrations, also 66% was more female, and I previously mentioned that Knack was mostly predominantly male audience. And then also 5% opted into a paid Knack subscription, so they, I think it's fair to say that people are willing to dare to doubt. Now the site is still live, so in 3 languages, Thinking Color, Thinking Couleur, Penser en Couleur. So if you haven't done the experience or the test yet, you are welcome to do it. And if you have also any more questions on the case, we'll be happy to talk to you about it after the talk. So that was kind of it.
Okay, thank you.